Alright, Dew in the Morning has made a video on anti-natalism. Reference to my video. Seems a pleasant enough person, but she does make some comments now and then that are pretty hostile. But whatever. So I'm going to play this at, started at the 2-minute mark or so, 3-minute. Because she paraphrases the position fairly well, and then she goes into her objection, which I'll try to reduce.
Created only in consciousness, because I have described in other videos how the human consciousness has the capacity to see the world in a symbolical way, and has language, has made concepts, constructed concepts, abstractions, generalizations, in order to be able to communicate, to make sense of the world.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's pretty much how I look at it, but our difference is going to be on whether or not what we're doing is discovering the truth through that process, or if we're just making up a model. Okay, so that would be my difference with what you're saying, is that my argument is that the logic and the truth is out there to be discovered. It exists in reality, just like pi. All right, pi is just a relationship between diameters and circumferences. We discover the relationship. There's a truth in the universe, relationships. We understand there's this concept of sentience. There's this relationship between pain and pleasure. There's a relationship between how we are shaped and our origins as a single piece of DNA 4 billion years ago, and a process of evolution. So we're describing a truth of a circumstance, and part of that truth, in my opinion, is discovering the truth of value, and that the only thing that we can discern as having real substantive value in the universe is the capacity of a sentient organism to suffer. For example, a Jew in a concentration camp is absolutely not a good thing. All right, a sentient creature being harmed is absolutely bad. Okay, there can be circumstances where it's good to hurt something because you're going to prevent more harm to something else, but the point is that suffering is absolutely bad. And if you can't agree with that, if you can't understand that that's the premise of every perception I basically have of the world, then yeah, there's not going to be any real avenue of communication, because I'm not going to buy some argument that a silly human's perception that they think their dog has pretty fur, that's more of a reality than the reality that it's a sentient creature and it has a welfare, and that the suffering or that it might experience has real weight, where some trivial attachment or some statement like my dog is the greatest dog in the world or some kind of bullshit like that has absolutely no weight in comparison. How else to put this? But anyway, I think that's going to be a core of a disagreement, because you're going to say that logic can't go there. And I'm saying logic can go there. Of course it can. If there was a mega, super, gigantic, colossal, ultimate intelligence, it would still understand that sentience was very different than all the other crap happening in the universe. That sentience was distinctly different from this computer screen displaying lit up pixels. It was just it had very different character than any other process taking place in the universe, and that it did give it value, weight, and it is in fact the only value in the universe. It's the currency. That's probably the way to say this. It's the currency of reality is the sentient being's welfare. Pain and the elimination, let us say, of pain. That's the currency.
And to have any activity in order to survive and reproduce. So, another thing that I would like to say, the first was that this is a God complex to look from.
Yeah, whatever. It's not a God complex. It's simply defining value. And so if you want to say it's a God complex, if somebody says the Holocaust was terrible, they're playing God, and that would be idiotic. You're going to call every vegetarian having a God complex because they recognize there's no rational economy in imposing suffering on sentient creatures. You're going to call that a God complex because they've declared its welfare important. I mean, so this is insulting, rude, and obnoxious. I can declare value, and what I'm saying has no value is reproduction for the sake of reproduction. The agenda of a DNA molecule, okay, has no value. It has no meaning. A DNA molecule has no credibility as either a designer or a purpose giver or a meaning imposer. So if you're going to tell me that survival is more important than the quality of the life lived, I'm going to argue to you that's absolute crap. Okay, survival means nothing. The welfare of the organism means everything.
About onto life. You can speak of meaning only if you look from inside the living world. If you are a living being, a human being.
Well, again, you're just saying that somehow it's something humans make up then. And I'm going to argue we don't make up the fact that, a 6-year-old kid enduring chemotherapy is bad. It's something to be avoided, and that we would expend a great deal of currency of minor murders to prevent that major murder, so to speak. I think it's just nonsense to do this. There's no real value in the universe bullshit. Because then why you even making arguments on YouTube? Everybody might as well be mass murderers, but you might as well just say it doesn't matter. And I think that's just a crock of shit.
Consciousness yourself. But if you are a human being with consciousness and say that life doesn't have a meaning, who are you to say? You only express your own.
Yeah, well, who am I to say? I'm allowed to say it, and I explain why it doesn't have meaning relative to what does have meaning. What I'm telling you is life being on planet Earth has no meaning to the universe. The universe doesn't hurt. It doesn't go into shock. It doesn't go into convulsions. It doesn't experience a negative sensation. It doesn't feel denied or ripped off or stolen from. It can't be harmed. Okay, and harm is a key word. Maybe harm should be one of the most important words in the English language. We should just stay focused on this word harm, because it's things that do harm that have value. You can't harm the universe by not having human beings on it or not having reproducing DNA molecules on planet Earth. The universe will not be harmed. That's why our existence has to actually produce something to justify the currency, the harm being expended by our existence, the fact that we open the door to harm. And by opening that door, we have to have an excuse to letting the harm out. If you're going to liberate harm, you have to have a reason to do it, an overriding reason, a reason that justifies the expense. And you just simply don't have that. Resorting to the DNA molecule, resorting to evolution as a description of your, as if it's a sacred cause, is nonsense. That would be just like me saying that the formation of emeralds is sacred. And what if the formation of emeralds caused great pain and suffering to sentient organisms because the emeralds created noise or did some other kind of thing, a radiation of some kind? Well, human beings would have no problem whatsoever if they had some way they could neutralize the radiation or neutralize the obnoxiousness of the emerald process. If they could stop emeralds from forming and therefore stop some sort of toxic effect, they would act instantly to do that. They would have no qualms about ending emeralds in their existence. It's because the thing doesn't have any overriding purpose. And so the fact that nature gave it existence of a process does not validate the process. The process still has to earn its keep. And the anti-natalist argument is that the vehicle called sentient life is not earning its keep. It's consuming far more harm than it's producing anything of real value to compensate. It's going no miles per gallon. It's just a vehicle with no wheels and no place to go that consumes the currency, the gasoline of harm.
Personal opinion. Other humans may have other opinions. They may say,
Yeah, well, whatever. I'm not going to get into an argument about what opinions have to be respected or that all opinions are the same or any of that other crap. Hitler's opinions were shit. I don't care if Hitler was the most popular guy on earth. Fuck Hitler. Alright, a slave owner's opinions are shit. Okay, fuck the slave owner. Kick him in the nuts. Tell him to shove his opinions up his ass. Alright, unless you can qualify an opinion and defend an opinion, then your opinion means absolutely nothing. And what I'm telling you is if your opinion is life is meaningful because a DNA molecule says so, that's about as irrational as an asshole owning slaves and saying, well, those people are different than me, they're less than me. It's just as irrational. For you to resort to a DNA molecule to tell you what to do with yourself, that's just preposterously silly. To sit there and tell me that that's an opinion I have to respect, no, it's as silly as Hitler's opinion.
well, I will run the chance of having suffering in my life, but
yeah, well, that's your business, right?
In life as well.
Yeah, again, it's your chance. So if your baby came out being you, all right, came out being your psychology, so you could only impose it on you, well, then that would be fine. But that's not how it works, okay? People completely different than me had me, all right? I'm not a copy of them. I'm a new human being, and I have a whole different potentiality. And so the risk was that a certain percentage of human beings will not be born into a world they see any value in or any purpose in playing on this stupid playing field, playing this idiotic game for this stupid trophy of nothing. And you have no right to impose on them unless you can come up with some sort of mission statement. And saying a DNA says I can is bullshit. You have to have a better license than that to impose on somebody else.
Pleasure challenges the pleasure of being alive.
Well, again, that's just so presumptuous. So you're telling everybody they have to look at nature and they have to look at life or even human civilization and they have to reward it and applaud and say what a great performance. No, they can say, fuck all you lunatics. You've made a shitty world. You're sloppy, reckless, selfish assholes. You're nothing better than well-dressed monkeys. And the whole mechanism is infantile. It's a bunch of retards chasing fake rewards made out of tin and plastic and superficial nonsense, ego gratifications. It has no substance. And you are burning and harming and torturing and causing catastrophic harm for your frivolous chase up a mountain of nothing.
So, not to look from outside, but from the inside. And when you look from the inside, you can decide for all life, for everybody. What is that?
Well, that's like I said, it's just silly. So, like, if there was a Dr. Frankenstein, you're just saying something silly, like I can't stop Dr. Frankenstein. Of course I can. Like I said, if you were playing with your own welfare, if you were only capable of harming yourself through your behavior, then fine. But we have laws. You can't even throw darts at rats in this country. And for good reason, because it's a fucking gratuitous harm imposed on a sentient creature. You don't have a right to do experiments or play games with sentient life. And so you have to qualify yourself if you're going to do an experiment. And if you're going to create a human being, you ought to be able to articulate a reason. And the reason should be something better than DNA says so.
Possible to do, and what not, and if life has a meaning in general or not. Every human being has a meaning of their own life.
Yeah, well, again, like I said, I'm not going to buy this argument that you can just make up the value equation. The value equation is a premise, in my opinion, and it's a premise I'd go to a war for or something else. It's about as big a premise, the fact that suffering sucks, torture sucks. Those simple statements are about as loud and as big and as heavy as I can imagine something being, and there's no way I'm not going to have the confidence to go, march for that cause.
The other thing was that Gloomboomdoom uses especially philosophy, logic, to construct this theory, which he thinks is watertight. The main argument, I said it already, is that life is senseless, meaningless, purposeless, and there is a lot of suffering, pain in life, and it's not worth it. You can't balance this bad suffering with anything good that is there, that is in life. You can't compensate it either. So, the only solution is to not have life at all, only then you won't have suffering. But we can't use philosophy for judging this thing.
There, well, see, look, you did a very nice paraphrase, you explained it very well, and then you're going to, raise some technical objections that somehow philosophy, that is discovering the truth, can't be applied to a value equation. And I'm just saying that's an arbitrary statement. I don't know what philosopher declared that the law, but I think it's preposterously stupid. Value is there, like everything else, to be discovered. We have discovered through our own personal experience that feeling bad actually sucks, and feeling good is pretty kick-ass. It's quite obvious. We don't even need to have a trial, do we? Do we really have to put suffering on trial to figure out whether it's a bad thing? I think everybody knows it's a bad thing. It sucks. If you can avoid it, great. Fantastic. That's what you want to do. So again, that is just a truth. Philosophy is about the truth. It's about applying logic to the truth. And once you've established that that's a rock-solid value, that's a rock-solid truth. Suffering, misery, hard conscious discomfort, bad sensations, repulsive sensations are a bad thing. They are to be avoided where possible and where unnecessary. It's just a logical premise. It's a logical deduction, and it is the premise of everything else that matters. Is just that recognition that unnecessary, wasted suffering is basically the crime that a human being can commit. All crime is essentially made out of creating unnecessary harm.
Because philosophy, for example, with the means of philosophy, I will try to debunk this argument about suffering. What is pain? What is suffering? It is not an entity, a thing that exists and will appear in somebody's life and stay there. Pain and suffering are not entities. They are constructions, concepts constructed in the human mind. They are abstractions.
It's just silly to do this. Okay, they're experiences. They're not an abstraction. They're an experience. And whether it's an illusion or not, like time or some other kind of bullshit, it really doesn't matter, because Einstein says it's one hell of an illusion. Alright, so the fact is, it's an experience that does take place in time and space. If you want to pretend it doesn't really exist, then again, why do you even make videos? Because then there is no value equations whatsoever, and nothing, absolutely nothing matters. We could kill 1 billion Jews, we could kill 6 billion Jews, we could shove nails in everybody's eyes, because it all doesn't somehow fucking goddamn matter. I think that's absolute nonsense, and that's the the logical dynamite of your premise that value isn't part of fact.
Is happening actually is a physical thing. If you stab your toe on a rock, you have the molecules of the rock, you have the living cells in the toe.
Yeah, well, again, I'm not going to argue about the fact that our brain is a functioning device that produces the manifestation that we might call consciousness and the ability to feel. And it's as real as magnetism or as real as gravity. It is a consequence of the physical arrangement, and it has, as we have discovered through personal experience, meaning and substance and value. So I really don't want to argue that to death. Like I said, if you can't accept the premise that suffering matters, then just fuck conversation, okay? I might as well talk to a stick. So anyway, so I'll go on to the dispute. Yeah, well, it's pretty much that dispute video where he again wants to change these 4 words into one word and call life interaction. And so I'll explain how, again, there's no point in doing this because you eliminate from the equation all value. And the meaning is in the value of the words. There's no point in saying cannibalism if you aren't going to realize that cannibalism implies the consuming of something of equal value to yourself. I mean, that's the whole point of it. It isn't regular consumption. It's consumption based on consuming something of your own value. So it's like a machine that would produce gasoline, but it would consume as much gasoline as it produced. That would be a machine of zero functional use. Okay. So anyway, I'll move on to that video.